The Los Angeles Dodgers were big winners at the MLB trade deadline, but could they have traded for Garrett Crochet, and were they unwilling to give their top prospects? We're breaking down the Dodgers deadline. We're throwing out grades, and what are the Dodgers World Series chances after the deadline? That's coming up next on Dodgers Dugout.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Welcome to Dodger Stadium.
Dodgers win!
This is the golden age of Dodger baseball.
Grand slam! It's a double for Freddie. Magic!
They're going to make big signings. They're going to make impact trades. This is the most anticipated season in Dodgers history.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020.
Think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out. Now, we're going to go through these trades in order. And the first trade the Dodgers made was sending Miguel Vargas and infield prospects Jarrell Perez and Alexander Albertas to the Chicago White Sox in a 3-team deal where they acquired reliever Michael Kopech and utility man Tommy Edman from the St. Louis Cardinals. The White Sox also sent outfielder Tommy Pham to the White Sox and right-handed pitcher Eric Fedde. Now, we'll start with Michael Kopech. The 28-year-old was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball at one point, and now the first thing you need to know about Kopech is that he's one of the hardest-throwing relievers in the sport, averaging 98 miles per hour on the heater. That's good for the 99th percentile. He also has big strikeout numbers, a 32% strikeout rate. That's good for the 93rd percentile. His 31.5% whip percentage is in the 90th percentile, so he generates a ton of swing and miss. A 14.1% swinging strike rate is also elite. And now if you look at his numbers, on the surface they don't look great. A 4.63 ERA, a 4.66 FIP, but if you look at the underlying numbers, he has a 3.79 expected ERA and a 3.81 FIP. So those numbers indicate that he is due for some positive regression to the mean. And he's already starting to experience that. He's had a ton of success of late. In his last 6 appearances, he's posted a 0 ERA, a .31 FIP, a 188 expected FIP, a 50% strikeout rate, and a .3 FWAR. So what do the Dodgers need to do to get Michael Kopech to reach his elite potential? Well, it's about fixing his command and throwing strikes. He has a 12.4 walk percentage. That's good for the 8th percentile. And also, you want to miss bats. He's in the 3rd percentile in barrel percentage. He's below average when it comes to limiting hard contact. And if you look at the ground ball rate, probably want to increase that number as well. But Michael Kopech has all the talent in the world. He has all the tools to be one of the most explosive relievers in baseball. I've been pushing for Michael Kopech for a long time because I've always felt that if you took that kind of talent and put him in the lab with Dr. Mark Pryor and Connor McGinnis and the development staff that the Dodgers have, that they can optimize him because he has something you just can't teach. You can't teach that velocity. You can't teach triple-digit heat and that kind of explosiveness, but what you can improve is mechanics and release points and pitch mix, and you can try to find other ways to optimize pitchers. And I guarantee this is a project that Dr. Mark Pryor and Connor McGinnis, they're salivating over just because of all the talent that he possesses. Now, he's making $3 million this season. The Dodgers will owe him just over $1 million for the remainder of the year, but he's also under one more year of team control. So he'll probably be around a little over $3 million for next season, but the Dodgers are in a really good place to have a guy for the rest of this year they can mold and an entire offseason and spring training to really get the most out of him. And as far as his role on this year's team, I was the first to say it. He should be the Dodgers closer. That should be the goal for him. And yes, I'm a big believer in closer by committee, and you want to play the matchups, but I want to see him ready to take over in high leverage situations because even when this Dodgers bullpen was right this season, they still were in the bottom third when it comes to strikeout rate and missing bats. They lack that dominant style of reliever that plays up in the postseason. And you also add the fact that in July, the Dodgers bullpen had a 5.55 ERA and they averaged 4.27 innings per game. You need some length from your starters to not tax the bullpen as much. So I think this will go down as one of the best under-the-radar moves at the deadline. Yes, you would have liked to pick up Tanner Scott, and the Dodgers were definitely involved in trade talks for Scott until the very end, but Kopech's upside makes him so intriguing. And you know what I always say, if you want to be the man, you have to have the command. If they can find a way to fix his command, he could be one of the best relievers in all of Major League Baseball. Now, the next player the Dodgers acquired in this deal was super utility man Tommy Edman. 29 years old, switch hitter, went to La Jolla Country Day High School in San Diego, California. So he's back in SoCal. He was selected to the all-academic team there. He went on to attend Stanford University and play college baseball for the Stanford Cardinal. So big brains on Tommy Edman. And now the first thing you need to know about Tommy Edman is that he hasn't played a game at the big league level this season. Edman had arthroscopic surgery on his wrist back in October, and it's taken a little longer than expected to recover from. He's taken part in 8 rehab games at the AA level and has gone 6 for 29 with a double, 4 walks, all as a DH. He also had a setback in his rehab assignment after suffering a sprained ankle where he had to get an anti-inflammatory shot. Now, since then, he has been back, and he's played in 4 games at the AA level, going 2 for 15 with a double and 2 walks. Now, on Monday, he told reporters, "I'm feeling good. I've got a couple weeks of rehab under my belt. Ankle is feeling better, and I'll get reevaluated when I get to LA and see where we go from there." Now, he's going to have around 2 weeks of rehab before he's going to be reevaluated, but he could be back at some point in mid-August, and that could come against his own team when the Dodgers head to St. Louis on August 16th. Now, Edman signed a 2-year, $16.5 million deal back in January that wiped out his final 2 years of arbitration that paid him $7 million this season and $9.5 million for 2025. The Dodgers owe him around $2.3 million for the remainder of this year. Now, what are the pros and cons of Tommy Edman? Well, the biggest pro is that he's an elite defender at multiple positions on the diamond. He's played second base, shortstop, third base, and all 3 outfield spots. Using outs above average or defensive runs saved, Edman has been average or above average at second, short, third, left, center, and right. He won a Gold Glove at second base in 2021, and he took home a Fielding Bible Award as a utility player in 2022. Another pro is he hits lefties well, and he's a switch hitter. He has a career 117 weighted runs created plus against southpaws and a 93 weighted runs created plus against right-handers. So against lefties, he's 17% above league average offensively. Against righties, he's 7% below league average offensively. So he's extremely solid. He's an above-average defender at multiple positions, and he's an average bat. Over the last 3 years, Edman has averaged 12 home runs, 32 doubles, and 30 stolen bases in 150 games, accruing with 11.7 B-WAR and 10.7 F-WAR from 2021 to 2023. He's also a dynamic base runner. He's in the 88th percentile in sprint speed and has stolen 106 bases in 123 attempts, good for an 86.2% clip. And now, what are the cons for Tommy Edman? Well, he's not a big threat with the stick, but he did have a really good year in 2019 where he slashed 304, 350, 500, but if you look at his career, he slashed 265, 319, and 408 in 2,425 plate appearances. So, yeah, he's around a league average bat. He doesn't hit a ton of home runs, but he's hit between 11 and 13 home runs in all 4 of his seasons at the big league level. Doesn't walk a lot, has a career 6.2 walk percentage, but also doesn't go down swinging a ton either at 16.5%. So, I look at Tommy Edman, and to me, he's Mr. Fix-It for the Dodgers. He's human duct tape because there's a lot of questions right now for LA as far as guys coming back. Max Muncy, is he coming back? It's positive signs right now, but he can play third if he does it in a pinch. And you can also throw him at shortstop if they decide to move Mookie back to the outfield because Gavin Lux is having a ton of success. It looks like he's really turned the corner, so you want to keep Lux at second base if he's going to produce the way he has for the last 3 weeks or so. And then you also look at the center field spot. And Andy Pages has been a below-average center fielder since the beginning of May. Andy Pages is hitting .231 with an 82 weighted runs created plus since May 1st, so he's been 18% below league average, and he hasn't been great defensively in center field either, posting below average marks and outs above average and defensive runs saved. So most scouts will tell you that Andy Pages really should be a corner outfielder and not a center fielder, and Tommy Edman can certainly take over center field. Or you could use him at the shortstop spot as well if you want to move Mookie Betts to second, or you want to move him to right field. You can use use Miguel Rojas again as a utility infielder as well. So they're going to have the optionality, they're going to have the flexibility that they covet, and they're going to have the ability to move guys around. So Tommy Edman is going to be able to help this team a ton. The big question is, will he be respectable at the plate? Because you have guys like Chris Taylor, who's dealing with a groin injury. We don't know about his status, so we'll find out about that pretty soon. Kike Hernandez has struggled mightily offensively this season. So both of those guys were expected to be key utility pieces, but both have really struggled at the plate. So the biggest key to utilizing Tommy Edman's skill set is to get him healthy and get him in the lineup as soon as possible. That way he can find a rhythm at the plate, he can get the timing back, because it's late in the season at this point. You want to get him back as soon as possible to see if he can be a part of this postseason run. But I think it's going to be great for the competition on the team. Guys towards the end of that 26-man roster that are trying to have a role for this team heading into October. Also, it's going to be great for the bench. The bench has struggled in recent years. The quality of the bench has been subpar, in my opinion. I've seen better benches at Elysian Park near Dodger Stadium, and now you get some quality in that bench. So it certainly does raise the floor of this team. It improves the margins, and Tommy Edman just is a great glue guy, a winning style of baseball player that can help this team. People are saying he's injury prone. Truth of the matter is he's played 130 plus games the last 3 years, 150 in 2021 and 2022. So I don't think this is an injury prone player, and I guarantee you, Dodgers fans, you're going to love the way this guy plays the game. Lots of hustle, beautiful defense, and he's an average bat at the plate. He can help this team a lot of different ways. And if you look at what the Dodgers gave up, this is going to go down as a fleece from Andrew Fleeceman. And the Dodgers end up giving up Miguel Vargas, who at one point was a prize prospect in their organization, one of the best hit tools at the minor league level. Last season, he got the runway to be the Dodgers starting second baseman, graded as a below average defender at second base. Also, he struggled at the plate. A lot of that was due to just the injuries early on and just never finding a rhythm at this level. He ended up getting sent down and never got another opportunity for the rest of the way. And you look at this season, he makes his way back up, and they were able to raise that trade value to get a deal like this done. Miguel Vargas slashed .239 with a .313 on base. He slugged .423, had 3 home runs in 30 games this season, posted a 108 weighted runs created plus, so he was 8% above league average. But the truth about Miguel Vargas is there was no role for him on this team. Just like we saw with Michael Busch, no role for him as far as the defensive position, because you talk to scouts, you talk to people within the organization, they'll tell you that Miguel Vargas is a first baseman or a DH. But I talked to Miguel Vargas. He told me his favorite place to play on the diamond is the batter's box. So this is definitely a bat first type of player that doesn't have that positional versatility that this organization covets. And he did make his mistakes in left field, and he did get an opportunity at second. They were exploring the idea of experimenting him at third base if Max Muncy didn't return. But one, they're confident that Max Muncy is going to return. And two, there just was no role moving forward for Miguel Vargas. You got a Hall of Famer at first base. You got a Hall of Famer as your DH in Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani. So that one doesn't hurt. And then you look at Jarrell Perez and Alexander Albertas, 2 infielders that definitely have a lot of potential. But the truth is, we're talking about teenagers. We're talking about 2 players that haven't played above single A. So 2 players that were very dispensable for the Dodgers, especially when you consider that you acquire players that can help you win this year and next year. So this was a fleece. I give this trade an A trade for the Dodgers, because I'm extremely high on the upside of Michael Kopech, and I love the versatility of Tommy Edman, what he brings, and as far as his ability to answer a lot of big questions and be Mr. Fix-It for this year's Dodgers team. So I give this trade a big A, as in Angels, as in what the hell were the Angels doing at the deadline? I mean, are you serious? What's happening over in Anaheim? But no, the next player the Dodgers traded for was for Ahmed Rosario. So Ahmed Rosario gets traded to the Dodgers for the 2nd straight year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that next season, wherever Ahmed Rosario is playing, he's going to be traded to the Dodgers for a 3rd straight season. And the Dodgers give a 27-year-old right-handed pitcher, Michael Flynn, another guy that's not going to hurt you, to lose a 27-year-old prospect at .425 ERA in 42 1/3 innings at AAA and AA, with most of those starts coming in AAA, 28 of his 31, 59 strikeouts, 16 walks, 4 saves. But hey, he's on a minor league deal with the Dodgers. That one's not going to hurt you. And you get Ahmed Rosario back, who is raking this season. This year, in the American League East, for the Tampa Bay Rays, Ahmed Rosario is slashing 307, 331, 417, a 115 weighted runs created plus, so he's been 15% above league average. And then he continues to rake against lefties, which he's done throughout his entire career. A 126 weighted runs created plus against southpaws. But he's also been above average against righties, too, hitting 301 with a 326 on base and a 398 slug with a 109 weighted runs created plus. So his splits have been even. He's been above average against righties and lefties, and he's also a versatile player. Last year with the Dodgers, he played mostly second base, some shortstop. This year with the Rays, he started 18 games in right, 17 games at second, 10 times at shortstop and third base. So he's another guy that has that positional versatility that the Dodgers could benefit from, and it could go a lot of different ways. He could flourish in his opportunities and make a case to start somewhere depending on how good he is offensively, or he can miss out on the postseason roster like he did last season. One thing I want to see from Ahmed Rosario with the Dodgers is that he actually does have success against lefties this time around, because that was the big highlight of getting him last season. But unfortunately, he didn't perform as well with the Dodgers against lefties as he did with the Guardians. Last year with the Guardians, he had an 822 OPS against lefties, and then with the Dodgers, a 768. So you want to see more success against southpaws, because that's where he's going to hang his hat. And also, what are they going to do with him defensively? You could platoon him at second base with Gavin Lux, because Gavin Lux, as fantastic as he's been at the plate of late, he's hitting 188 against lefties with a 423 OPS. So I think you could see that. He can play shortstop in a pinch. You can play third. You can also have him as one of the corner outfield spots as well. So a guy that can absolutely help this team. He's for sure additive. And the Dodgers ended up DFAing Ryan Yarbrough to make space on the roster for him. And Yarbs, it was a sad day for the Yarbrohs. As president of the Yarbrohs, it was definitely sad to see him go, but he did work for the Dodgers. He definitely gave everything he had, and also gave as many innings as he had. 67 in the third innings. That led all big league relievers this year. So he was your long man. He could give you multiple innings out of the pen. Had struggled of late, but essentially what the Dodgers got is a bench piece that can rake against lefties, and all they give is a 27-year-old AAA pitcher that's not going to factor into their future. So another great deal for the Dodgers based on what they got for what they had to give up. Another A from me. Another A from me for this move. And then the next move they made was for Kevin Kiermaier. Kevin Kiermaier to the Dodgers. They sent Ryan Yarbrough back to Toronto in return, and Kiermaier's 34. He's having a down year at the plate, hitting 195 with a 546 OPS, but he's elite defensively. He essentially is like the center field version of Miguel Rojas, only that Miguel Rojas is actually having success at the plate this season. And now the number one thing you need to know about Kiermaier is that he's special defensively. This season, he's been outstanding once again, a 10 outs above average, 9 defensive runs saved. But he's really, really struggled at the plate. So it's tough to justify him out there if he's going to produce like he has this season. And earlier this month, the Blue Jays, they did place him on waivers. He went unclaimed. Teams didn't want to be on the hook for the rest of his $10.5 million salary. But I think he's someone that you look at the defense. We talked about Andy Paz in center field this season. He's a -8 defensive run saved. So Paz is a -8 defensive run saved. Kiermaier, a 9 defensive run saved. A -1 outs above average for Paz, a 10 outs above average. But the offense has been so bad that it would have to be a massive turnaround for him in whatever opportunities that he gets for him to stick when the postseason rolls around. Because I do think they still want Jason Hayward to be that fourth outfielder. They still want him to be in the mix. We don't know if they're going to throw Mookie Betts back into the outfield situation. Will Tommy Edman be the center fielder? We know the only lock right now in the outfield is Teoscar Hernandez. So we really have to see how this plays out. We have to see if guys come back from injury. As far as what does Chris Taylor look like? Will he be a part of this mix? How guys perform at the plate? But just imagine late in a game, and Kevin Kiermaier is your center fielder, Miguel Rojas is your shortstop, and Tommy Edman is your second baseman. Imagine late game substitutions for defense like that. It would be pretty special, but we'll see. I mean, with Kiermaier, he's already made it clear he's going to retire after this season, so he has a chance to win a ring. And he has had some success in the postseason. Against the Dodgers in 2020, he did go 7 for 19 with an 1137 OPS. So does a change of scenery really help him? It could, but I also want to point this out too, is that this Dodgers team, yes, they're struggling at the moment, and a lot of that has to do with the bullpen being overtaxed and the starters not going deep enough into games. You're missing out on Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman's been out, and Max Muncy. But despite all these struggles, the Dodgers, if you look at their center field, they're 27th in OPS and weighted runs created plus. They're dead last in Fangraphs F-WAR. So last in WAR, 27th in OPS, 27th in weighted runs created plus, yet they're still a first-place team. So one thing we know now is that the Dodgers can still be a first-place team and have a well-below-average center fielder. Now, Pajez's offense has been a lot better than Kiermaier's, but if you could just make Kiermaier's a little more respectable, he could have a role on this team. So I would not rule that out. So I would give this trade a B. A B just because I don't know what they're going to get out of Kiermaier offensively, because if he's that bad, it's going to be tough to justify him out there, but the potential is there. So I give this trade a B. It's not like they gave up anything to get him that they wanted. Now, the big blockbuster trade, the trade that the Dodgers absolutely had to make was acquiring another frontline starting pitcher. And if you look at the World Series odds, the Dodgers now have a 15.2% chance, a 15.2% chance according to Fangraphs. And the biggest reason for that bump is that the Dodgers went out there and they filled their biggest need. Internally, the Dodgers felt like they had to add another frontline starter, and they did just that in Jack Flaherty. And Jack Flaherty, make no mistake about it, was the best starting pitcher that was dealt at the deadline. Skubal was never going to be dealt. Crochet, the Dodgers were in on him until the very end. He ultimately doesn't get traded. Yusei Kikuchi, the Astros gave up 3 of their top 19 prospects to get him. The Padres, they gave up 2 top 5 prospects for a reliever in Tanner Scott. The Dodgers, to get Jack Flaherty, the best pitcher that was dealt at the deadline, gave up their number 8 and their number 22 overall prospects. And yes, catcher Tyrone Lorenzo is definitely a talented young player that could turn out to be a big league catcher one day. He is very impressive with his power. This kid can hit, but the truth is the Dodgers have a treasure trove of catchers. They dealt from surplus. Your top overall prospect is a catcher in Dalton Rushing. Will they experiment with him at third base? That remains to be seen. But you also have Diego Cartaya, who at one point was the top prospect in the organization that continues to reemerge once again. And then you also signed Will Smith, who is one of, if not the best all-around catchers in baseball, to a 10-year, $140 million deal. So you're not losing much by giving up Tyrone Lorenzo. And then Trey Sweeney, a shortstop that you acquired in the Victor Gonzalez deal, where Victor Gonzalez got DFA'd. So Trey Sweeney is someone that hasn't been able to hit at an average level down the PCL, so the odds of him doing that at the big league level are highly unlikely. Really nice defensively, but he's not someone that this organization was high on as far as someone they developed for years, right? They just got him in the offseason. So you give up your 8 and your number 22 overall prospects for the best pitcher that was available. That was an outstanding move for the Dodgers to get Jack Flaherty. That was the move of the deadline, because the team that has all the pressure to win the World Series got a pitcher that they desperately needed, and Jack Flaherty fills so many needs, not just as a guy that you can feel confident about giving the ball in a game 2 of a series, because I know Tyler Glasnow, he's your ace. He's your horse that's going game 1, but at least you can have the debate about Jack Flaherty and a Yoshinobu Yamamoto if he comes back healthy. At the very least, he's certainly in that mix, and he's been great this season. If you look at Flaherty's numbers, his major league ranks with pitchers that have pitched a minimum of 100 innings is a 2.95 ERA. That's 11th. A 3.12 FIP. That's 12th. But focus on these stats. A 2.55 expected FIP. That's second. A 2.70 Sierra. That's second. Opponents are hitting 2.11 off him. That's 13th. But also the second best strikeout to walk ratio in the sport, 27.5%. His 32% strikeout rate is 5th. So every single metric you look at, he's either top 5 or top 10. He's performed like an ace. And another area where he really helps this team in a big way right away is the fact that this Dodgers rotation, they're averaging a little over 5 innings per start with a 4.55 ERA since the beginning of June. Jack Flaherty is averaging almost 6 innings per start at 5.93. and he's lasted at least 6 innings in 12 of his 18 starts this season. So he's been durable for the most part, missed a few starts due to that back injury, but says he feels great, and he's been able to go deep into games. So I love this acquisition of Jack Flaherty. I would actually entertain the idea of an extension for him if everything goes right, because we're talking about a hometown kid who went to Harvard Westlake High School, who grew up loving the Los Angeles Dodgers. He told Dave Vassay that his guy was Adrian Beltre and Matt Kemp. His mom posted a picture of him as a baby wearing a Dodgers uniform and a Dodgers hat. So this guy was born to be a Dodger. He's wearing number 0 for the first time since the 80s because of Russell Westbrook and Jason Tatum. I mean, a really interesting guy that has got his career back on track. I mean, when it started off for him, he was drafted in the first round by the Cardinals with a comp pick, the number 34 pick overall back in 2014. He finished 5th in the Rookie of the Year voting in 2018. Then he came back the next season, was finished 4th in the NL Cy Young race. Had a difficult few years after that, dealing with some injuries. And then last season, he had a bumpy year with the Cardinals before being traded to the Orioles and ultimately being sent in the bullpen. But this is why it's such a great deal, because the Dodgers, they don't have to commit to him after this season. You don't have to commit to him after this year. It's a true rental, and he's going to be incentivized to absolutely pitch his best to help this team win a World Series and help himself get paid in the offseason. So for this deal, I have to give this an A. This is an A for me because you got the best pitcher available. It's not like the Orioles or the Astros or the Yankees or the Padres. It's not like any team that was going to threaten the Dodgers picked up a Crochet or a Skubal, right? Or even Flaherty. So you're able to benefit from getting Jack Flaherty, and as long as he stays healthy, I feel really, really good about him as my Game 2 or Game 3 starter. I think Yamamoto is still a rookie, still working his way back from a rotator cuff strain, but Jack Flaherty, I mean, he's got the swag, man. He's got that Dodgers history behind him, wanting always to play with his organization, and like I said, you trade away Victor Gonzalez for Trey Sweeney, and you're never really losing anyone. So when you look at the fact that the Dodgers got all of these players for one top 15 prospect in Tyron Lorenzo, so there's no doubt about it. The Dodgers are one of the big winners at the deadline. You got a much-needed frontline starting pitcher who happened to be the best pitcher that was ultimately dealt at the deadline. You trade for him, but didn't have to give the haul that the Tigers gave up or that the Padres gave up. And then you also added Tommy Edman, that's going to play a pivotal role potentially at shortstop or in center field. Ahmed Rosario can rake against lefties. You can platoon him with Gavin Lux. Kiermaier, if he gets his offense right and there's certain opportunities that he takes advantage of, he could potentially be a center fielder. And then Michael Kopech has the biggest upside. Michael Kopech could get the final out for the Dodgers in the World Series. That's how explosive his stuff is. That's how good the Dodgers developmental staff is. We're talking about a guy that has elite potential. He throws gas as hard as anyone in this sport. It's just about commanding the walk. So I consider the Dodgers big winners, but I'm still going to give them a B plus, A minus, something in that range, because I do feel like you could have gotten Randy Arozarena. I just feel like they could have gotten Randy Arozarena if they wanted him bad enough. You didn't get a deal done for Luis Robert Jr., which is understandable why the White Sox wouldn't want to trade him at this point, because one, they got fleeced the day prior in the deals for Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham, Michael Kopech. So maybe they just kind of went ahead of the offseason with Chris Getz and maybe hire an outside consultant to get deals done for these big-name players. And also Garrett Crochet. So I was hearing a lot of stuff about Garrett Crochet up until the very end. The Dodgers certainly were in it. And then today, Jack Harris of the LA Times, he wrote, mostly, though, the White Sox were driving a high price, according to a person with knowledge of the situation, desiring top prospects such as catcher Dalton Rushing, that the Dodgers were reluctant to include in the deal. So the Dodgers not willing to include Dalton Rushing in the deal. So we'll find out what that means and how ultimately it will impact this team, because I don't think that it came down to the extension. I still think they would have been able to get Crochet if they put up the right prospects. And then once he gets in this Dodgers clubhouse, it's highly unlikely he's not going to pitch, especially when he's surrounded by Kershaw and Glasnow and all these great players. He's not going to tell them I'm not going to pitch. Even so, you could have found a way to get an extension done. But what does this mean for Dalton Rushing? Are you going to trade him in the offseason? If there's a position you want to address, are you going to move him to third base? Because ultimately you got to play him or find another position for him, because we know that Will Smith is going to be the catcher for the next 4 to 5 seasons unless you want to move him at another position. So ultimately, could you have gotten Crochet? I guess we'll never know. I do know they were heavily involved in trying to get Crochet at the very end, but give credit to the Dodgers for pivoting right away and getting Jack Flaherty and finding a way to secure the top pitcher available. And they didn't really get that impact bat. They didn't get that impact bat they were hoping for, but let's also remember this. You're getting Mookie Betts back. They're feeling better about Max Muncy, and you did sign Teoscar Hernandez in the offseason. You do have Shohei Ohtani for the first time in the postseason. So let's not forget that. A lot of the Christmas shopping was done very early in the form of over $1.4 billion spent this offseason. And look, Ahmed Rosario has been raking the season. If he gets opportunities, we'll see what he can do. Edman, he can provide a little bit. Not too high on Kiermaier. If it happens, great. But I think the most important thing is if you do move Mookie to your outfield and you have a Mookie and Teoscar corner outfield situation, then I think that definitely increases your pop there. So, I mean, I want to see Mookie at another position. I think if you look at the 13 position players right now, depending on how it shakes out, I mean, you got Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie, Smitty, Teoscar, Muncy, Lux, Barnes, Edman, Rosario, Jason Hayward, Kike, and Chris Taylor. But if Chris Taylor isn't healthy enough, we'll see. Does Kiermaier make it onto this roster? Does Miguel Rojas make it back? Because Miguel Rojas is another guy I think you see on here as well. So I think it's going to be a lot of competition towards the end of that roster. Kike hasn't been great at the plate. He's been actually bad at the plate. So is Chris Taylor. So I don't know how you justify that when you have pieces that can do better at those spots. So there's going to be a lot of competition for the last couple months of the season. So every single game, doesn't matter what the standings are, a lot to play for all these guys if they want to make this postseason roster. So am I going to lose sleep over not getting Crochet? Maybe. Not going to lie. Crochet is an absolute game changer that could have dominated in the postseason for the Dodgers. But I do think they have enough right now, and that if they get some luck this time around as far as health and injuries go, this team is about as good of a chance as any team right now in Major League Baseball to win the World Series. But let me know down below in the comments section, what grade do you give the Dodgers for their moves at the deadline? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know down below. I think Andrew Friedman made his first big move at the deadline since the expanded postseason. It was the first big deadline deal since Max Scherzer and Trey Turner in 2021. So they didn't have to give up a ton, too. Everyone around the league overpaid massively. The Dodgers really didn't. But that's going to do it for this episode of Dodgers Dugout. My name is Doug McKain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the #1 show and the #1 YouTube channel for your Los Angeles Dodgers here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, comment Go Tani down below for our next big giveaway. We're getting close to 95,000. Once we hit that, we're giving away a brand new gray, authentic Shohei Ohtani jersey. Just comment Go Tani down below so you're eligible. We just gave away a new Jack Flaherty jersey to someone who won for the Let Friedman Cook trade deadline special. So be on the lookout for giveaways for t-shirts and hats. I'm trying to get you guys as much as I possibly can. But thanks for rocking with us here on Dodgers Dugout Live. Follow me on X and Instagram. Also remember, nothing brings us together quite like Dodger baseball. And until next time, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.